What is going on YouTube? N60 Fortress here, I'm back. Thanks for tuning in again as always, it's very much appreciated. What we're going to go through on this video is a bit more real talk in terms of full set collecting, how I went through that journey, twice actually, but we're going to talk about the second journey, which is the more recent, when I started in 2022. And yeah, it's a bit topical at the moment, some of the areas I'm going to touch on, because we've just had a sale on eBay for StarCraft 64, hit £1,700, that's it, £1,700. And that's before import tax if you're buying it from somewhere else in Europe. So it's sold in Austria, and if you're in the UK buying that, you would have paid £1,700 plus the VAT on top, so another 20% on top. And yeah, so another £240 odd on top. Yeah, it's not cheap, it's an expensive title, but what's more surprising is the condition of the said StarCraft 64 isn't the worst I've ever seen, but it's certainly questionable for that sort of sum of money. So yeah, let's get into it really and get into some more real talk. So how do we feel about this, guys, then? £1,700 for StarCraft 64 plus VAT potentially. It was a North American game, and it came out in Australia as a PAL exclusive, so Europe didn't get this game. It's interesting because if you're going for a full PAL set, you need this, but if you're going for a full, you know, European set or whatever, European PAL, then you don't need it. So it's interesting where in a full set journey you class this. Obviously I bought the Australian exclusives because I wanted a full PAL set, and that's what I had before when I collected first time, but these are getting really expensive now. And don't get me wrong, this was expensive to me. I paid 4 figures, I can't remember exactly, so I'm not going to quote it, but yeah, I did pay 4 figures for this, and it's a lot, and I appreciate that, but based on sales like that, you know, I don't think that it's a bad investment what I paid, because I made sure I got one of good quality. And this actually has the original receipt from Toys R Us in it, which is pretty magnificent to have, and I'm a sucker for things like that, you know. Things like that are a little passport in time, aren't they? You can see that it was bought in the year 2000 from Toys R Us in Australia, and yeah, it's just a nice piece to have. But you know, I've always said that I always go for the better condition, because they're the ones that are more likely to hold, if not increase in value. And yeah, really happy to have this in my collection. But yeah, it's strictly not necessary. If you wanted a full UK set, then you wouldn't technically need this. But yeah, it's interesting that people are still paying these high amounts for these games, and not only paying these high amounts, but they're also compromising on condition somewhat. So they're not paying less for a more tatty copy. Don't get me wrong, that copy that's just sold is not the worst I've ever seen, but it's certainly not the best, is it, for that sort of money? Yeah, so that gets me on to my first point then of the real talk of, you know, when you're going for a full set journey, this is something you're just going to have to be prepared for, isn't it? Because every set, every console, whatever generation it is, does have its oddities, games that just didn't have a high print run. Obviously this being an exclusive as well, it obviously magnifies things a little bit, obviously because it was only available in Australia in terms of PAL. Obviously you can get the North American copy somewhat cheaper. But by the way, it is a bit of a marvel that they managed to port a PC game like this to the N64. I think it'd be better if you could use a mouse, but you know, it works with the N64 thumbstick, and it's pretty impressive that they did manage to port this onto the N64, I must say. But yeah, every collection in terms of gaming, to my knowledge, has its rarities, its oddities, and with that, you're always going to have to be prepared to put your hand in your pocket, and it's sometimes difficult one to comprehend, because let's talk PS3 essentials. You know, I think FIFA 17 is a pretty rare one, and you know, putting your hand in your pocket for a FIFA game just seems like something too difficult to comprehend. But across any sort of gaming collection that you can think of, if you're on a full set journey, you'll be able to tell me in the comments what you're collecting and you know what the oddities are for each console. But there's always certain games that you have to pay a lot for, which aren't necessarily the best. It's just based on scarcity, and that's something you're going to have to wrestle with and come to terms with. What I will combat that with, though, is it's important to try and make friends in the right places. So the reason I got hold of this copy, and for a great price, is I've got a friend in Australia, and you know, this game isn't actually that rare, you know, compared to like games like Rat Attack that we talked about on the channel before. You know, this is just uncommon in comparison. The bulk of the copies you'll find in Australia, and therefore you've got customs and high postage expenses to think about as well. And if somebody bought that copy in Europe, obviously within the EU, so not the UK, but within the EU, they wouldn't have had VAT to pay or anything like that. So if someone from Italy bought that game from Austria, then they would have not had to pay VAT, but or import customs. But yeah, it's by knowing people in the destination countries that these games are made, you put yourself in good stead to get a copy for a much better value. And I know I'm stating the obvious here, but that's what I did, and I think that's what you need to do. You need to be cute. If you want to get these games for less expense than what they could potentially cost you, you need to sort of get your ear to the ground, shop around a bit, make friends in the right places to help you on this sort of journey to, you know, try and get the best deal you can, and not just maybe get the best price you can, just to find them in the first place. So, you know, if you're looking for this game and, you know, one comes up every 6 months or so on eBay, and then it goes for a crazy price relative to the condition, and you're looking for better, then you're going to have to try and find some, you know, people, contacts who can help you get hold of one anyway, never mind for a better price, just to find one in the first place. So yeah, it's important to sort of spread your wings and spread your net and talk to people within the community, and, you know, build up a rapport, trust, mutual respect, and so on, to help you on this sort of journey. That's what I did. That helped me, and that's probably a key learning point for anyone who's going after any sort of full set. You need to identify the rare games that you're after and you're going to need to pick up, and then work out how best you're going to acquire those. Any sort of full set collecting, it's kind of like a marathon, not a sprint, so you just have to pace yourself, and that's what I had to do. But I fortunately, because I had prior experience in collecting the N64 set, I knew what was involved, I knew what the rare games were, so I knew not to pass on them when they came up if they're in the right condition. But yeah, you have to just try and pace yourself so you don't burn out. It is quite exhausting. You know, you spend a lot of time searching for games. You're going out physically and hunting, or, you know, refreshing eBay all the time and stuff like that. It can be quite involved, so you just need to make sure you balance your time correctly and don't exhaust yourself too much doing it, because it can be quite consuming. I've talked about that on the channel before, so I won't go down that road too far. But yeah, just you need to allocate a certain amount of time for it and try not and go over that really, and try and stay healthy and maintain other interests, family life and so on as well. That's really important. You need to, you know, family must always come first over any collecting habits. It's good to try and set yourself goals, like, you know, where you'd like to be at a certain point in future. You know, do I want to have, like, you know, 10-20% of the set done, 30-40, 50-60, and so on, at a certain point in time, to give you something to work towards. And then, you know, it's quite satisfying when you meet those sort of goals. So if you want, you know, if you've got 20 games to go and you say, oh, I want 10 left in the next 3 or 4 months, you know, that's a realistic target, isn't it? And something to strive for, I guess. I mean, it doesn't matter if you hit those targets or not, but, you know, having a goal and somewhere where you can see where you're going, it definitely helps you on this sort of journey. It's important to make friends. You know, I've talked about the benefit of, you know, people helping you and so on, and you know, that herd sort of mentality and interest can help you, because if somebody's got something, but they spot something that they don't need but you do, then that will help you. But it also just helps keep your interest alive. You know, it's good to talk about our habits with, it's good to talk about our collecting habits with people. You know, it's healthy to be able to talk to people. You know, if I wanted to talk to my wife about this, she's not really that interested. So, you know, this stays separate. She appreciates why I've collected it. She appreciates I enjoy it. She appreciates the value to it. You know, I've said that the hope is that this stuff goes up in value, so that it's a bit of an investment really. I don't spend any more than what I can afford to spend on this hobby. I've demonstrated in the past that I can make money doing it. You know, I collected my first set, sold back down to my originals, and sold the games on for a considerable profit. And so I demonstrated at that point in time that, you know, I can make money doing it. That's not the reason why I collect, but it's just like a sort of a bonus side to it, which I've talked about as well. You know, a lot of people say that, you know, collecting isn't investing and it's a waste of money, it's all going to tank in the future and stuff like that. And it's fair enough, that's your opinion. I don't agree with that. But yeah, like I said, it's important to talk to people about it. And like I said, your partner's not on a level or interested in the slightest, like my wife's isn't really, then you have to speak to other people, friends and so on, that you make, or acquaintances within the gaming space really. Another point to make is economies of scale. So what I mean by that is buying in bulk. So if you find a collector who's selling up, if you can grab several games off them rather than just one, obviously you're saving on postage. Hopefully they've got the condition that you want, obviously, to make sure you do that. But this is an important thing. There were times where I bought several games in bulk, not mass en masse, but certainly like 2, 3, 4, 5 games in goes that I was happy with at the time, for example, and that way you save on postage costs. And it's just good to knock off a few in one go. You can make a lot of progress very quickly by doing that. And so what you need to do is, when you see games come up on eBay or so on, if you like the look of them and they haven't got anything else listed yet, drop them a message in their inbox and say, have you got anything else that you haven't listed yet? Sometimes you'll be surprised and they haven't listed stuff yet. Sometimes, not always, it doesn't always work, but sometimes that'll get you a look in before they get listed, and it'll get you a look in before any other people get to see those games. And sometimes, and this has happened to me before, it's happened to friends before, you can strike gold before it even sees the light of day on eBay. So you can get some rare games before anyone else has a chance to have a shot at them. So it's important to get in people's inboxes, light them up and ask them what else they've got, just in case. And you have to do that because 9 times out of 10 it probably won't work, but that 1 time out of 10 it does work. You might be able to strike gold and get a good deal, or at least save on postage costs or whatever, and strike a deal that way. So that's something else to do on a full set journey. Of course, it's important to remain interested. These sort of journeys can take time, and if you're talking over the course of a year or two and stuff like that, if people's circumstances change, people's interests change, people move on, there might be something else they want to spend their money on, there might be something else that you want to do, you might just lose interest, you might find the journey difficult. So it's just a journey that you've got to be prepared for mentally, that if you want to get to the end, you're going to have to go through some tough times in terms of mentally and recognising what else could you do with your time, what else can you do with your money, is this something you still want to do? And these questions will go through your head at times. For the most part, not everyone, obviously. Some people are so tunnel visioned, I'm doing this no matter what. I think I was a little bit like that, but every now and then you will reflect and think, potentially think at least, what else could I be doing, or what else could I be spending this money on? And these are perfectly normal thoughts, but you need to be prepared to wrestle with those thoughts if you want to get to the end game, end destination, and be prepared for that really. And when you see games like StarCraft selling for £1,700, it'd be perfectly normal to think, I'm going to do a U-turn here and not bother going for that, because if I still needed that game now, it would certainly put me off a little bit, but then I would still be doing what I did and trying to speak to friends in those locations to try and get a better deal. And for anyone who is slightly worried about that price point, I spoke to a friend in Australia and he said that is crazy. Like, he's tempted to go and find some more and flip them for bigger money, because that price is pretty crazy really. And what that shows is just a supply and demand imbalance. People haven't seen one in eBay for ages. Multiple people obviously need it for their sets, and so they've just gone at it hammer and tongue, and yeah, it's just pushed the price up to a price point where it's probably above equilibrium. It's above what that copy should sell for. I'm not complaining, when you've got a nice copy, it's nice to see the prices going up a little bit, but yeah, I do feel for people who are paying that much for that sort of condition, because it is a lot really, for something that let's be honest, isn't the best condition. The one thing that I would say about full set journeys as well, it's important to try and remain focused really on that journey that you're on. I see a lot of people collecting multiple systems, multiple consoles, multiple games, and that's all well and good, but you kind of become a jack of all trades and a master of none, in the nicest possible way. And I don't mean that in a horrible way, I just mean you're not so savvy with prices of those consoles and those games on those consoles individually. You sort of become a price taker, and you see a price and think, okay, you might compare it to CX or something like that, and think that that's okay. Whereas when you specialise and become more knowledgeable on one certain system, it becomes more second nature, and you tend to have a better understanding of the system, a better knowledge of how to sniff games out and stuff like that, and I think that that's important. It certainly was for me. You know, I could pick up certain other console games and stuff now, but that's after I've got my full set journey out the way. I don't think I'd be buying PS3 games and other stuff like that when I was on that journey. I was just focused on this journey. These are the games that I need to pick up to get to my end goal, and so I remained focused, and that was important for me. And it's not the case for everyone, and I'm not saying you have to, but it certainly helps that way because you get less distraction. You've got more money in your pocket if you're not spending on other things and things like that. It's nothing worse than if a rare game comes up and you've got no money because you've just spent your load on something else. So you know, you try and avoid that happening. And yeah, just being focused, it'll help you get to your goal sooner if you're not distracted by other things. And like I said, you're more knowledgeable on that said collection rather than sort of collecting loads of different things and not being so knowledgeable. And yeah, it'll just help you get to your end goal sooner, really. So let's talk about some of the drawbacks to full set collecting then. So yeah, you know, in any full set, there's games that you're never going to want to play. You know, I've got countless NFL football games that I don't want to play. Obviously, I'm going to play them on the N64 as part of Mission N64239 and bring that to you. But before I started doing this, or if I wasn't doing this, then those games I'd have no interest in playing. So, you know, I've got a different approach when I'm picking up other games now, like PS3 and stuff like that. I'm only picking up games I want to play or have any interest in playing at any point in time, or that my son might be interested in playing in the future. I have no interest in full setting certain parts of that library because it isn't for me. And you can say, well, why didn't you think that about N64? But I think it is nice having a full set of something, and it's an enjoyable journey to go on. But you know, you've got to be mindful that every library or anything that you collect for, and you're going for a full set, it's going to be fraught with things that just aren't interesting to you, other than the fact that it helps complete a set. So it's something to be mindful of. And you know, if I was suggesting to anyone go for a full set, it's probably only because you want to have a completionist sort of view on it and you want to have a full set together, which is great, it really is. But you just have to be mindful that there are things that you're going to have zero interest in really overall, and that's going to be the case for anyone. Even if you love NFL, there'll be other games like ice hockey games on the N64, for example, or just football games or something. There's going to be something in there that you just don't have interest in, because it's very rare that someone's going to have an interest in all of it, that's really, other than your goal of getting a full set. And you know, every full set owner I've spoken to, they've always said, oh, this game's rubbish, or I'm annoyed that I had to pay bloody £1,000 for this Rat Attack, or it's an absolute rubbish game, and so on. You know, it costs a £5 on the PlayStation 1. You know, why am I doing this? So it's, you know, just something to bear in mind, really, that full set collecting, if you're going to do it, you're going to have games that you're paying hard for that you might not necessarily enjoy or will ever enjoy, other than it's something on your shelf to complete the collection. So that's it, guys. This pretty much does it for the real talk this week. I don't want to ramble on too long, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please whack a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. If you're new, please consider subscribing, trying to build this place up, get more eyes on the channel, more people coming along for Mission N64239, and yeah, coming along for the journey. So next episode of Mission N64239, up to episode 7, I think, will be coming this weekend, hopefully. I've got to work now, and I'm started working through the next game. That'll be coming this weekend, all being well. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. The one thing that I would say about full set journeys as well, it's important to try and remain focused really on that journey that you're on.